Awesome. Hello, families. I see y'all trickling in. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump in. So, my name is Justin Barker, one of the Associate Directors in the Office of New Student and Family Programs. Welcome to our third webinar of the summer. This is our Campus Life and Engagement session. Also, I hope y'all have had the best day ever. We're going to have some fun tonight. I'm really excited for the folks that we have joining us on our panel. As a reminder, if this is your first time with us, there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We're going to be utilizing that feature to ask the questions of these fine folks today. And at the end, we will have some quick announcements. And yeah, we're gonna party tonight, all right? So let's buckle up, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on over to Ben.
Awesome, Justin. Thanks so much. Justin Barker has the most infectious smile and laugh and personality on campus. So we're thrilled to have him as moderator. You're the bomb, Justin. Thanks for having us. Um, Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Adams, and have the privilege of serving as Senior Associate Dean of Students for Quadex here at Duke. I'm a Duke alum and have been in this position for a few years and have the privilege of working alongside three incredible colleagues that are joining us tonight. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation about campus life, about what opportunities exist for your students across campus, kind of beyond the classroom, the co-curricular opportunities that exist, ways for them to plug in, how they can navigate a new environment. And there's no better people to have on this call than Allie Harrison, Bobby Kuntzman, and Anna Lennon in this space. So I'm going to invite, just as a way for us to kick things off and dive right in, I'd love to invite, let me go actually just in alphabetical order, if that's okay, Allie, Anna, and Bobby by first name. I'm going to invite them just to introduce themselves, to kind of say who they are, what their department is, what areas they oversee, and then maybe just a little bit about how your department contributes to the life of the campus community. So, Allie, Anna, and Bobby.
Hey everyone, I am Dean Alley, Senior Associate Dean for Residence Life here on campus. And so my team oversees all of our residential communities on East Campus, where all of our first year students live, and then West Campus and apartments, where you will transition to when you become a sophomore, junior, and senior here on campus. Our department, when you talk about providing a sense of belonging, we really want to make campus feel like home, right? At the end of the day, you're going to get involved, you're going to do research, you're going to do great things here at Duke, things that you've already been doing. And one of our sole purposes is to make sure that you have a space where you feel connected with folks, and also the ability to make sure you know who and where your resources are with our staff, who are the RAs, and your residential coordinator. And so I'll talk more about that later.
Hello, everyone. As Ben said, my name is Anna Lennon. I'm the Director of Student Involvement and Leadership at Duke, and so the very fun office of all of those great things outside of the classroom. I've been at Duke for about 7 years now and gotten to work with all of the parts of our office and the great things, and that includes Duke Student Government, so a very representative space. If your students were in student council in high school, it's likely the thing they might think about doing here. Duke University Union, which is the group that puts on over 200 programs a year. The number is large, but the one you probably hear about if you took a tour at some point is LDOC, the last day of classes event. Gigantic concert, whole day of activities, all sorts of fun stuff that they put on. All of our on-campus leadership programs, our Duke True North Leadership Program, our Women's Leadership Initiative, and our Leadership Series. I'll talk about a bunch of those probably later. Our on-campus fraternities and sororities, which are most of our culturally based organizations, and another place people find some belonging. And then all of our recognized student organizations are sort of supported and have some oversight from our office, in addition to wonderful advisors that help support the 600 plus student organizations that we have at Duke. So all of those are ways that we love supporting our students finding belonging. And that might be the club where you're like, I just really love playing chess. And so I just want to go find people that I can play chess with once a week. Great. Or it could be an academic club. It could be going to movies every Wednesday night that DUU puts on, something where you feel like you belong and have a place and are seen and get to enjoy yourself and relax a little bit.
Hey everybody, Bobby Kuntzman here. I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Campus Life and Student Affairs. And what that really entails is I get to be a bridge role to help support a lot of what is happening on campus. And so I work with our teams like our conference and event services team, our venue and production management team. There's a film festival in there, Full Frame Documentary Film Festival. If you didn't know, Duke is host of the third largest documentary film festival in the world, and a couple other departments. And really, so if you came to campus and you did a tour and you walked through Broadhead, where a lot of the restaurant locations were, if you walked through the Bryan Center as part of that tour, that whole area is that physical heart of campus, and especially for our undergraduate students in particular. And so part of that is how do we be the host for events? How do we collaborate with partners across the entire institution? So whether it is activities that take place outside of the classroom, we also host classroom spaces within the facilities and within those buildings. I work with the teams that get to support a lot of that.
Thank you all. Appreciate you. This just gives you a little bit of the lay of the land of the different spaces that we're operating in. To give you a little bit of a background of the department that I work in, I work alongside all three of these folks pretty regularly on a day-to-day basis, and we connect largely around how is it that QuadX, which is really Duke's living and learning model, it's kind of the operating system of Duke. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. How is it that we ensure that your students feel like they belong at Duke? How is it that they feel like they are tapping into the passions and the interests outside the classroom that they have while bridging it with the classroom, exploring some new opportunities as well along the way. We certainly want your students to be exposed to a wide range of things that we host. And then certainly thinking about a little bit about well-being. I know that you all have had a webinar about well-being, so we probably won't tap into that as much tonight because that was previously discussed in a different one. And I know that next you're going to have other opportunities to learn a little bit about the curriculum as well. So again, tonight we're going to talk just about the ways in which your students can plug in beyond the classroom and tap into really the things that they love to do beyond classwork. So thinking a little bit about that, I'm going to ask our panelists to kind of go around and if you want to elaborate a little bit more on your department, that's totally fine. And maybe highlight for us something that's really exciting that's taking place in your department right now. What's maybe the new initiative or relatively new? It doesn't have to be like it's launching in August, but if it launched in the past year, that's growing. Because Duke is always evolving to meet the needs and interests of students. And I know that these are brilliant minds who are here to support them. So we'll go through that. And again, we'll go in alphabetical order. Eventually, Allie, you'll be last, but I will start you first this time. So Allie, Anna, and Bobby, thanks, y'all.
The one time I wish my parents named me with a Z name. Thank you, Ben. So in Residence Life, you heard me talk a little bit earlier about, how our hope ultimately is for you to build connections with others. One of the things I'm excited about, and it's not as new, but to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that are going to continue to evolve. So within our QuadX system, one of the things that changed a few years ago within our housing model was the connections. And so you're going to hear more, as you got your housing assignment, you may say, I'm a resident of Blackwell, I'm a resident of Randolph, and then I'm also part of this quad. Like, what does any of that mean? And so what that really means is that you are part of a larger connection with upper class students who lived in the same one of two buildings that we call our sister buildings, houses on East Campus. And so over the last few years, we really just continue coming out of COVID and students and everyone acclimating to just being back on campus, being in person, building community, making friends. But this year, we're really excited to really strengthen through buddy systems and programs for the first year students really early on to start meeting upper class students who are going to be in what's your quad connection and where you're going to live next year. So in the past, a lot of times, students may or may not have met upper class students, maybe just kind of your OL, but we're really working to see how we can make sure students feel like when I'm on West Campus, that my quad, which is located on West Campus, also feels like my secondary home, and I start to meet people who live there. So I start to also build a broader network or a constellation of upper class students who I can go to and have connections with, and maybe they're in similar orgs as me, but they just have general interests or connection points with me. And so we're really excited about rolling some initiatives out this upcoming year, some programs out to help first-year students not only connect with each other, but also connect more deeply with upper-class students separate and after your orientation, and other than just also maybe your RA, who obviously will be an upper-class undergraduate or graduate student. So we're really excited about that. We also have a late night programming that we do on East Campus called Devils After Dark. If you notice one thing about Duke, everything is called Devil's something, Devil's Gate, Devil's Deck. So we have Devils After Dark that looks at late night programming on Saturday. And so, you know, the last 2 years, administrative staff have really helped run that. And so one of the things that we're launching this year is a student board to be able to really guide what do students want to do on a Saturday, and what are other orgs that we can partner with as we just think about kind of social life on campus and different opportunities for our first year students. So we're really excited to launch that out as well this year.
Awesome. Well, I'll jump in a little bit more from the student involvement and leadership side. One of the first things I'll highlight to y'all, just so you know, because your students will want to know quickly, our office hosts our Duke Groups Fair, which is our annual fair where student organizations are all over the East Duke lawn. It's the first Friday afternoon of classes, and that's where they'll get to go and like just walk around and explore and talk to all of the students that are out there, find out what that group is about, look at all those pieces, and see what's interesting to them, and try some new things, try some old things, all that good stuff. And I say that just because it is probably one of the largest events that happens all year for us, because every single student goes through this event at some point. So your students will be talking about it, and it's a great way to find those things. The new initiative that we're really excited about is our Duke True North Leadership Program. And so we have had a great relationship. I've worked with the George Family Foundation for a number of years now. And a couple years ago, Bill George, who is one of the co-founders and co-presidents of the foundation, used to be the CEO of Medtronic. So if any of you work in the field, that name will probably mean something to you. Created an emerging leader version of his True North leadership model that's all about authentic leadership and how do we sort of make leaders to make a better, ethical, authentic world. And he used to teach this at Harvard Business School many, many years ago. And partnering with that group and with Bill, we have now created a undergraduate version of that leadership program for Duke students. And so this is the first year that we are launching a first year cohort for that program. And so we'll make sure we get you the website for it that has the application link for your students to sign up if they're interested. But the deadline for that is also August 29th. So we would love to see your students apply. It is a year-long program. They will be put in small groups by their residence halls and locations, so getting to build a different set of community with folks around them. And they'll have sessions every month where they will talk about different facets of leadership and what that means to them, how we define leadership, what are their values related to leadership, how has their life experience impacted how they lead and show up, and all kinds of great stuff that really helps them both discover themselves, but build really strong connections around those topics with the people in their community. And it's just a really powerful program that we've gotten great feedback from as we've been piloting it for the last few years with some other upper class students. And we're so excited to be launching it this fall for first years. And they're going to be at sort of the beginning of the rollout of this next growing phase of Duke True North leadership if they sign up. So we would love to see them sign up for that.
Counter to Ali, I love the alphabetical order, and this is the first time that B has been at the end of the list. So, what I would say that I'm excited about to share is specifically around the Arts Annex. Arts Annex, a lot of folks don't know that we have this warehouse that has been turned into this really massive art studio on campus. And so one of the things we're doing is we're expanding programming in that space and expanding our hours. And it happens to be right in between East and West Campus along the bus route. But what's fantastic about the Arts Annex is you can practice any medium of art in that space. And so Arts Annex includes, for instance, we have a couple dance studios. We have ceramics, we have a dark room for photography, we have screen printing, we have canvas painting. So you name it, it's probably in that space. But I do think it happens to be one of my favorite places on campus because it's an opportunity to escape and just have some folks that will either host a workshop for you and teach you how to do one of these art mediums, for instance, or if you've already got something, you've got that skill and you just need a space to really practice that art medium, the Annex is a great place to be.
Thanks for all that. I mean, there's things that you will discover all the time at Duke. I think that the truth about Duke is that your students will go through 4 years, and they will learn about things on their second to last day on campus that they wish they had known about as they are walking across the stage, because there's a wealth of opportunities to be involved in. I'm going to ask a question that I don't have ready for the team. They have not seen this question. So this is completely unfair, but to give you the service of thinking about it, I'm going to answer it myself first, if that's okay. Just to tee you up and give you a little bit of time. All of my colleagues are brilliant and experts in the field. They've all worked at different universities as well. And so from that lens, my question for you is what about Duke in this area of campus life makes Duke unique, or makes Duke different? So for me, again, I'm a Dookie through and through. I have not worked at other institutions. I'm kind of a Duke lifer. So I haven't seen the other side of how things operate. But one of the things I think you'll find about a place like Duke, in just my own experience, is that there is just a profound level of energy across the campus that resonates and echoes throughout campus. That can be true of a lot of colleges, but we have students at Duke who the passion and energy that they have for Duke basketball that you see on TV and kind of see them bouncing up and down, is that same energy is how they feel about robotics. It's the same energy that they feel about leadership. It's the same thing. That energy is tangible. There's a big presentation this afternoon about AI and about the ways in which our students over the course of the summer have learned to code and to develop a new AI chatbot for Duke as a whole. That same energy that you again feel is unique to like a sports environment pours out across campus all day and every day. And so the beauty of a place like Duke is I think your students are going to come here, and yes, they're going to learn a ton from their professors because we've got top-notch professors. But I can promise you that they will gain just as much from their co-curricular experience and the students that they engage with in their campus clubs and orgs and in their residence halls and in their leadership positions, because it's the people that they're surrounded by and the energy that they feed off of. So I'm going to answer it that way. I'm going to go in reverse order this time. So Bobby, we're going to start with you and then work our way backwards. And I call Bobby out too because Bobby, dear beloved Bobby, used to work at our best friend down the street from us. And so he has firsthand experience of how Duke and UNC have cooperated and rivaled each other in this world. So
what I like to tell students is I have upgraded my blue. And so that is a great answer that resonates with a lot of our students. I think one of the things that makes Duke special, especially for our undergraduate students, is it's a small undergraduate population with a very dedicated faculty and staff team that really care about the student experience. And I was just texting with a student yesterday because I knew that they were spending their summer at the Marine Lab, just to do a quick check-in after they also studied abroad the first part of the summer in Spain so they can enhance their Spanish skills. So I think one of the things that you'll probably hear from all of us is we have a lot of direct connections with students. Students feel comfortable coming to us and asking questions, whether it's about how to get involved or they're struggling to find a place to get involved. And they really would just love some advice on what would be best for them, or they're thinking about an internship, or they're always texting just to check in. So I think what's different about Duke that we don't see at a lot of the institutions is because of the smaller community that we do have, it is a tighter community. And that's one of the reasons I love Duke.
Awesome. Well, I sit in a very fun, extremely unique role as part of my job, and I get to work with our line monitors, which again, if you took a tour, I know they stand right outside of my office and talk about the tenting for Duke basketball. And this is for the Duke UNC game specifically, that students have shifts and stay outside to essentially be in line for those tickets for weeks before the game. That nowhere else that I have worked does that exist, nor do I know of something like that existing at any other school. And this year will actually be the 40th anniversary of tenting and the line monitors at Duke. But this is an entirely student-run function, and that's what actually makes it so unique to me. This group of 20 to 30 students, it's a student organization, works with athletics. I advise them and support them in the process, but they manage the student line for every single men's and women's basketball game. And that's like such an amazing thing to have some student ownership over. If you go anywhere else, that line is ticketed online that you've bought or gotten if you're a student, maybe for free somewhere. It's free at Duke. And athletics has staff sitting there scanning your tickets, checking your bags, doing those things, right? There's still security that check bags and whatnot, but it is entirely student run to manage this process. And that level of student ownership and investment in creating and owning their experience is really true across so many spaces. I just particularly love the line monitors because they're close to my heart and the work that I get to do with them. And they're always a fun bunch, let me tell you. Those tents are hilarious every year. But that's one of my favorite things that I think is really unique about Duke.
My turn, last but not least. So wow, Duke is, I think, my sixth school that I've worked at. What I would say, one of the things that drew me to Duke that I found to be really special and coming, especially at the onset of Quadex and some of the changes that have been happening, is really our commitment to work alongside students. If you look at the website, that I'm sure many of you probably have, you'll see that one of the things when it talks about with Quadex is like, how do we remove barriers from students, right? How do we not overcomplicate things? And how do we also give them direct line to work with staff and faculty to help them do whatever it is that they're passionate and interested about doing? And so one of the things that I've really appreciated from a residence life perspective is with our housing model being newer, with the house and the West Campus connections, we really have been working with students on now let's build the vibrancy of that. What does that look like? What are the traditions? Like, what is it that we want to do? And how do we help you make this happen, right? And so I told people, working here, I have found that when I work with students, like we're usually starting from a let's see how we can make this work is our starting point. And I've really appreciated that. And I use this example that when I first got here, we were working with a group of students who were on the quad councils, which was a new student kind of board that they oversee large scale residential programming. And they were tasked with, creating traditions. We also had a quad identity team. So if you look when you get on campus and when you look in our website, you're going to see each quad has an arch with colors and symbolism. And all of that was created by these student groups who built this of what does it mean to be in Cohane and what are the things that are significant to Cohane from a student perspective. And when it came to creating traditions, I always use, there's one, if any of you live in Giles and Wilson, I'm not going to tell you the secret of it, but the Connecting Quad for Kroll created this event called Night of the Crow to welcome the first years. And the first iteration and thought process for some of their things that were really cool, but had some red flags as an administrator. And we were like, okay, it's not a no, but let's see how we could all get there in a, safer way. And it's a really cool event that, that first fall semester, we could have easily said, no, you're not going to do that. Absolutely not. But we said, okay, we see where you're going with your ideas. Now let's see, here's some feedback, here's some suggestions, here's what we would, suggest you do. And that spring semester, every resident who I met who lived in Giles and Wilson since then, this was in fall of 22, when I asked them what was their most memorable first year experience program connected to their residential experience, they all talk about Night of the Crow, hands down, and so that really just kind of shows as a testament that of how much students are able to shape and create what their experience is going to be here and maintain and create new traditions. But just our commitment to say, we're going to figure this out and work alongside our students to help with the manifestation of what those dreams are. And so I find that to be special at Duke because most administrators, most faculty, that's the approach that you're going to get. We want people to be safe, obviously, but we are here to just really work alongside, teach you the skills on how to do it.
As you can tell from all three of the panelists, we work closely alongside students. I think that some institutions you might go to and administrators can sit in a far off distant place. We are hands-on right in the thick of it. And it's not just that we work with large student organizations. We all have individual students that we text and we talk to because of those connections that are established. So that being said, it's a good segue to the next question. And Anna, I'm going to start with you since you're right in the sweet spot of being in the middle. What is the piece of advice that you give to students as they make that transition to Duke? We'll go Anna, Bobby, Allie.
Yeah. Well, my advice comes related to sort of that outside of class, outside of the residential experience, right? It has to do with the student orgs and finding things to go to and what they want to do. And I think the easiest piece of advice I can give that you all could also try to sort of share with your students is go to that Duke Groups fair, right? Or wherever you want to find out about clubs, if you're looking online, all these pieces, and shoot for 3 clubs that you want to try to go to, see what's happening, see if you want to join, etc. One that's probably about your academics that might enhance that for you in some way or expand how you understand or be supportive as you're learning that. One that's something else you've been interested in before, right? That you were like, I have been dancing for years. I want to join a dance club of some kind. That's really going to be foundational for me to sort of maintain my connection. And then one that's new, right? Try something totally different. And it doesn't have to be uncomfortable different, right? If you're like, I don't want to learn how to make a racing car, that's fine. But find something that's different that's going to expand your experience a little bit. Because that is also where you might find some really new connections that you didn't know, but that enriches your whole experience. So I always say, try to find 3 things to join, not 10, right? We have to be thoughtful about our time. 3, academic, familiar, and something new.
Actually, I would echo the sentiment. I think one of the things that's it's easy to try to continue what you did in high school. And I think one of the things that's important to note is you got into Duke, you were here, you have nothing to prove to other people. And so right now, focus on it's about you and finding your home and finding your place at Duke. And so I think it's really important, get involved within the residence hall that you live. I think meeting the folks that live within the community, and if I'm speaking for you, Allie, sorry. I think meeting the folks that live in the same community with you are really important. I love the idea. I would say maybe find one student org to start with. And don't add your name to every email list right off the bat, because pick that 1 or 2 student organizations, get your name on that email list only, because otherwise you may just stop looking at emails if that's the case. But I think that's really it. It's just really, you don't have to completely redo everything you did in high school. You're at Duke, you've been accepted, you've got nothing to prove, and so now it's time to make Duke a home for you.
I was going to talk about getting to know your hall. So I'll only speak about that about a little bit. And I have another tip that I would give. But honestly, I would say, as a first year, you're going to come in and you're actually going to be fully immersed in your experiential orientation group. So you will probably actually not really, and then you'll be tired at the end of the day. So you will probably not really fully connect with people on your halls until after classes started. But again, it's the long marathon. We got a whole academic year to get to know people, right? But what I would say with that is step outside of your comfort. You're going to get really close with your experiential orientation group and your OL. But no, one of the cool things, like I said earlier, the opportunities at Duke to create different pockets of people and connection points for yourself. So it's not to say one is better than the other. Have your experiential orientation group and connect with them and your upper class OL. But then you have a floor that you're going to live on with about 35 people. You're going to have a building that has anywhere from 80 to 250, depending on the building that you live in, of people to connect with and to get to know, learn interest, find connection points with. You know, one of my favorite stories from what hall was it? Pegram, were a group of students who all enjoyed cowboy like things, and then they would watch cowboy movies together. You know, they didn't all live on the same floor, but an RA made a connection because they were like, hey, have you ever talked to her? Because she actually has a similar interest. And then they all lived together their next year, right? And so immerse yourself into that. I think will be the biggest thing. The other thing I was going to add is that all of your residence halls on East Campus have what we call a faculty in residence. So this is a live-in faculty member who is there with their family, and their sole role is to be a resource and to get to know students. They literally are like, hey, I'm a faculty all day in the medical school or in political science, but I chose to come and bring my family on campus to get to know residents and immerse myself into the community. And so we have seen over the past few years, our students speak so highly of those relationships because one, this is a faculty member who is not going to grade you. They have, I mean, unless you happen to be in a class with them, but like you're not assigned into a class with them. It's just another adult separate from our housing staff that's in community that literally is going to host events, that's going to open their home for you and say, hey, come play with my 3 kids or my dog and cat that I have here. You know, let's talk about how finals went, right? And so it's just another resource for you to have a connection point as well. Or as you're thinking about your own experiences, you know, our faculty also know about ways to get connected and involved, whether that's orgs, whether that's academic clubs, that's also research opportunities and things of that nature. And so I will say if you talk to any first year, what our survey data shows is that a high percentage of them have all engaged with their faculty and residents. They host weekly events. So take some time, step out your comfort zone, and get to know your faculty and residents as well.
That's all awesome advice. The one thing I might add on to that is don't fear don't fear no, don't fear don't have a fear of failure. I think a lot of our students who come into Duke have probably very rarely failed at much. You got into Duke, you came here, you probably haven't received the lower grade. You probably haven't been turned down for a club. You probably haven't been not selected for whatever it is. You come to a place like Duke and you're surrounded by brilliant students who are all incredibly talented and wonderful folks. And that's awesome. And the reason you're here is because you are one of those incredibly wonderful, talented folks as well. And so don't be afraid of taking some risks in trying new things. With that comes the potential of failing at it. And that's perfectly okay. Duke is a place has a massive safety net for trying new things where you're going to be surrounded by people who care and support you and love you both as staff members, but also as your peers as well. And so take those risks. Try something new. Go for it. And if it doesn't work out, dust yourself off, and that will be certainly okay. We even teach a class, and there's a whole department, the I&E, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, has a whole series on kind of like learning to fail, like failing well, and it's teaching you about the importance of failing now so that when you go into the real world, you know how to be resilient and bounce back in the midst of it. So take some healthy, calculated risks, and I think that you'll do pretty well. Okay, let's pivot the question just a touch, and then after this, we're going to open it up to questions that are coming in via the Q&A. So this is the last scripted question. So parents, feel free to add them in the Q&A. This is a great follow-up question. What advice would you give to parents as they coach their kids from afar? How might you kind of help them coach their students as they navigate Duke? Let's start with Allie. We're going to go back to the original order, Allie, Anna, and Bobby.
Hey, everybody. So the first piece of advice that I would give is one to actually coach your students. I work in residence life, so I will talk to probably several of you on the phone because inevitably there's going to be something in the residence hall, a roommate issue, a noise complaint, something is going to happen at some point where your student may call you and say, this is happening. I can't live with this person. They get up, we're so different, whatever. They party, I don't, whatever it is, right? And what I see a lot of times, and I get it, as a parent, you want to just pick up the phone. I saw Dean Alley on a webinar. I'm going to call Dean Alley. I'm going to fix this for you. So the first piece of advice I would actually say is actually to step back, breathe, take the time to coach your student on asking them, have you talked to, specifically if it's a housing issue, have you talked to your RA? Have you talked to your residence coordinator? Have you gone to the office on each campus, East Campus, West Campus, in our apartments? We have our residence life office, or we have our larger dean of students office. That those are one-stop shops that even if the issue is not related to that department, we're going to figure out who you need to go to or who you need to talk to, right? And so keep those offices in the back of your mind, because we will be able to get the student connected to help for whatever that is. I tell parents at any school that I've worked at, like, I recognize that you are giving us the most important thing in your world, and we don't take that lightly. So know when we are here to help. So when we know that there's going to be roommate conflicts, there's going to be things that are going to come up. There's going to be times where your students may break a policy or misinterpret a policy. We're here to help them. And so operate from that lens and vantage point. But the websites do have a lot of resources and people, but that would be the biggest thing that I would say is that ask your students the questions of who have they talked to. Recognize also a lot of times that if they're sending emails, everything always happens after 5 o'clock. So a lot of times they've sent the email at 5 o'clock, they've called you by 6 and said, no one's responded. Everything's, going wrong. And then by 8 o'clock, we see the email and so much has transpired. And so know that there's our actual true emergencies. We do have after hour emergency on call procedures, but also helping your student understand timeliness. But our staff, we're going to get back to students, we're going to work with them. And so it is ever rare when a student says that no one is helping me, no one is responding. Usually it's because they emailed 20 minutes prior to telling you that they reached out to somebody. And so that would be just, my advice.
That timeliness, man, but I'll get to that email the next morning. I promise. So I think my advice comes from exactly what Allie referenced of, we know that for some of you, just like a part of your heart is walking around outside of you when you were sending it off, perhaps hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from you, right? And that is really hard. There's not words, right? And one of the things that I think particularly relevant to the space that I work in that can happen is you get the call a month in and your student says, I didn't get into this club. I haven't connected deeply with my roommate. I'm so lonely. I didn't get onto this sports club that I tried out for. I don't have anything, right? And that can happen because if they're only trying for things that are like having auditions and selectivity, and if there's 3 spots and 50 people try out, that happens, right? That's a fact of the world, just like getting into colleges. There's only so many spots. So I think that that's one of the most heartbreaking points for students for me, because I see how many amazing things are happening and how many beautiful, robust, brilliant spaces there are to engage. So one of my pieces of advice around that then is both be the sort of loving, empathetic hand-holding that you can be and support their tears and make sure they got their tissues, right? Or emotional support, cupcakes or whatever it is, right? That works for them. We have a team of students in our office that are called student org consultants. You can advise them to reach out and make an appointment with those folks. They can help them figure out what to get involved in, how to get connected to something. But they can also always go onto our website, which is dukegroups.com. They have to log in with their Duke information and go look up information for other clubs. So my coaching advice for you all, right, is to support them and love them in that. And then also help them think a little bit more differently about what they might want to get involved in, because what they were first targeting maybe didn't hit for them. They thought that this was the vision of who they were going to be at Duke, and a month or a month and a half in, that vision has shifted. And that's so normal and appropriate and all that amazing developmental stuff that we know is true. But it's really hard to move through that. And so there are humans, and their RAs can be great at advising them on this too. There's humans that can help them think through that, and we would love to get connected to them to do that. But my advice is to help them think a little bit differently about how they want to get in there. And I know our friends in NSFP just put the link in the chat for that as well.
I would echo the sentiment, both of those sentiments. I think the one thing that is easy to often forget is talk to your faculty member after a class. Talk to the staff member at the involvement fair or staff members that you see across the spaces. Because I do think building the rapport with staff and faculty is valuable. It's really important. And if there's times that you're like, I'm not quite sure what I need help with, I think we all serve as this resource. The other thing I think you'll see from both faculty and staff in particular is our day on average, it's not a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 like we're online right now, because we all do this because we care. And so I do think that because there is such a level of care for the student experience, having that connection and having that relationship also helps. Like, oh, I need a reference letter because I'm applying for this internship, versus now it's a cold ask because there is no rapport, no relationship. So what I would say is encourage your student to build those relationships, but ask them if it's happened.
That's all great advice, y'all. One thing I want to note for families is that over the, it can be a daunting process, and everybody thinks that they have to be like plugged in and instantly linked in the first week or so and get things going. And our team works all year. The new student family programs team, which is the team that hosts these chats and things like that, work alongside Anna's team to map out really the first 6 weeks of the semester. And there's these things called welcome weeks that you'll learn more about, that you've been exposed to. It might have been mentioned tonight. I apologize if it has been, but there's involvement week, and then there's identity, culture, and religion week, and then there's academic resources week. And those are all very strategically timed to reach out to students in moments where they are likely looking for those resources in a timely way. I mean, the academic resources week is a great example. It really doesn't make sense to put it in the first week because students aren't really hitting their first quizzes until a few weeks in, or they're not really realizing, oh, I might need to study a little bit harder. I need some study tips, or I need help. Same thing goes for the other weeks that we have over the course of the week, and your student will learn more about that. So I would trust the process, and tell your students to trust the process. We're thinking about this thing all the time, but as everybody has said here, all of us here at Duke are a super approachable resource to students, and we wouldn't do this work if we didn't want individual students to come up and ask questions and to be engaged. So that's it for the scripted questions. I can see that there's some things that are beginning to pop up in the chat. And I know that we've answered a lot of questions here, but I'm going to give it just a second. I'm going to raise some questions I know that have been answered via text, but I'm going to pull them back up because I think that they're worth addressing. Maybe Allie, I'm going to have you answer this question. Just thinking about it, because it kind of has to do with residence life on the weekends, or like campus life on the weekends, and really residence life kind of takes the lead on a lot of stuff related to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, because you've got live-in staff who are here and planning some of these events. Can you share a little bit more about opportunities for students to get engaged on the weekends? If a lot of the off-campus stuff is largely kind of Greek-based, if students aren't really involved in that, what other resources and opportunities are available Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, no, great question. So a couple of things to make note of is that, so within your residential community, you're more than likely, if you haven't already, you'll probably be in a group meet soon added. And so a lot of the events that are going to occur in your community, you're going to find out generally about them via an email from your residence coordinator, your RA sending out information in your group me or group text. along with, again, like I said, you'll get kind of like a bi-weekly newsletter as well. And then we also put events into Duke groups. From a housing perspective, each house actually has what we call a house council, and the quads have what we call quad council. So they also host programming. Some of that programming is during the evening. Some of that programming is during the weekend. So it really just depends on the students, but this is an opportunity for you to work with other first years to get connected within your house, to think about ideas and programs you yourself may want to host. We also have what we call our East Campus Council, and they do programming for the entire first year class on East Campus where you all live. So they will host things like the midnight breakfast, a 5K color run, and all kind of other activities that usually happen around the weekend and some evenings. The other thing, like I mentioned before, we have Devils After Dark. So every Saturday evening, there is programming that happens on specifically East Campus, and it kind of changes. We have like a few locations that are large enough, or maybe outdoors. And so that will look like trivia nights, outdoor carnivals and inflatables, to paint and sip nights. So a variety of different things. Our DUU also has a committee that does late night programming. And so that student run group, the DUU, that also Anna referenced, host our LDOC programming as well. So they have a committee that hosts late night programming, and that can span between, a lot of it is on West Campus, but can also occur on East Campus as well. And then ultimately, a lot of student orgs, like the registered student orgs that are through Duke Groups. So when Anna mentioned you can go on Duke Groups to find out about orgs, you will also see events on Duke Groups. I know enough to be dangerous to tell you how to search for it, but so don't quote me. But within Duke Groups, you'll be able to see what's also occurring that student orgs are hosting on campus, or meetings, events, speakers, and things of that nature as well. So those are a couple of avenues of what you can find out of what's happening in the Duke community that's student-led, and a few department-led things.
Awesome. I see a question in here. It's about getting into some of these clubs and organizations, one that popped up. And this is particularly asking about business fraternities, but I might broaden that question for Anna just to say, like, how is it that people can get plugged into some of these organizations? What are the different processes by doing it? Maybe you can talk a little bit about different types of orgs to help us better understand.
Yeah. So as I referenced earlier, we have over 600 student orgs that are recognized at Duke. And so there's an endless amount of possibilities, and new ones get created every year too. So some of them do have a level of selectivity. I have not pulled up the numbers yet for this upcoming year because annual registration is currently open. And so I don't have the most recent ones, but at last look, I think we were at about 20 to 25% of our groups were selective in some capacity. So that means they have an interview and application, or an audition process, or tryouts of some kind. So it's actually not the majority by any stretch of the imagination. And that includes, right, a sports club that's going to have tryouts for a team, or the a cappella group that's got to, they only have 2 spots, and you got to have the right singing range that I'm not going to pretend to know anything about. I'm not a musically inclined person, in order to be able to get in, right? So some of it, there's going to be some selectivity because of those pieces. And I think the piece that is helpful to understand when you're talking to your students about these groups is there's a lot of conversation about this group is the one you have to get in to be successful, right? That is the narrative. I am here to tell you, and our Career Center will gladly tell you, that is not true. We have so many students that haven't found their way into that club. Maybe didn't even join a club related to something to be successful around this career area specifically, and have gone on to find amazing roles in other spaces. I truly was talking to Greg Victor, our director of the Career Center, about some of our alums this morning that graduated in the last couple of years. This was the case for. So there's some important stuff to sort of help them undo that narrative that gets repeated a lot about this one group is the key if you want to be in XYZ thing. That's just not true. There's so many opportunities to engage with that you just might have to think about the thing that hasn't been said to you over and over again about it. So they all will have some different processes. We don't sort of define exactly how that works for them, but a lot of them will have an interview and application process, and maybe you interview with 2 exec members as you do it and have to show up to a GBM to sort of make sure that you are interested and want to be there. And I totally lost the rest of that train of thought. I'm so sorry, Ben.
You're all good. All good. That's super helpful. I think, just there are multiple paths. There's a wide range of options here. Students are going to explore it. But as Anna said, people who maybe market there, I kind of want to reiterate that because we hear it a lot, particularly in the first year. As students get in, there can be a narrative that students, if you want to get that McKinsey internship, that Bain internship, whatever it is, you got to get into whatever club, and that's just simply not true. So use that as with your student as you kind of coach them through that process. One of the questions here is about Greek life as well, and I think that Allie was answering one side about on campus. Bobby, I might punt it to you just a little bit. I know that you have a depth of experience in the world of Greek life. Can you just summarize a little bit about Greek life here at Duke and that relationship and how students navigate that while they're here?
Yeah, I think one of the things to note about Greek life is we have different ways of thinking about Greek life. We have social fraternities and sororities, we have service fraternities and sororities, and then we also have like the professional honorary fraternities and sororities. In most instances, I think when people are talking about Greek life, we're thinking about the social Greeks in particular. And so we have both on-campus organizations that have been that are recognized by the university, and we have off-campus groups. One of the things that we really tried, this is one of the reasons we really try to emphasize, how do you make this connection through the Duke Groups Fair? How do you build relationships and rapport with your peers within the residence halls? Is sort of how do we help students find the path that they want to be on while on campus? And I think for there's a lot of as they're navigating recruitment, I think for our Panhellenic women in particular within our Greek system, they won't do recruitment until January. So it really gives a semester, for instance, to build relationships with folks and see what do you want to get involved in? What is the journey? What does that start to mean, and what does that start to look like? And I think one of the challenges often students will experience is when they do come and they're trying to see the whole buffet, they want to taste everything on the buffet. And so you're like, wait, I'm joining 15 organizations at one time. And now I've made connections with this group, and I'm only going to spend all my time there. This is one of the reasons we will try to figure out how do you scale that back? How do you say, these are the 2, these are the 3, or this is the 1 that I'm really going to start with in the fall semester, because fall semester also comes with transitions of living in the residence halls, living life in a different space, all you can eat dining, right? There's a lot that comes with being on campus, and so take as much as you can, and still get connected with folks that are involved in fraternities and sororities, and then see what starts to make your heart go pitter patter more.
Awesome. I see one quick question. I'll just answer it. Are there pickup sports in the gym on the weekends for the non-partiers? Yeah, I think what you'll find is that while certainly there are moments when the campus can feel quiet when you just kind of walk around campus. I think that what students don't realize is that you can walk into a lot of these spaces and you're going to find a range of activities. You're going to find the students who are playing board games in the common room. You're going to find people who are playing basketball in the gym. You're going to find people who are sitting on the benches and just kind of talking about life, or in the gardens looking at stars, astronomy, that type of thing. You're going to find the partiers. They're there too. So there's going to be a wide range of students to get in, of course, throughout their time at Duke. We just encourage your student to walk in with a little bit of an open mind, of a healthy dose of risk taking, a willingness to ask for help, and really utilizing these resources. And we think that your students are going to find that the Duke experience is one that's why we talk about the Duke experience. It's not just the Duke education. Yes, it is the classroom, but it really is the residential experience and being surrounded by a network of people. And that's good. Last question I see in here: how do freshmen get sports tickets? They're all free. They sign up for them. They open up an account with Duke Athletics. They might have to wait in line for basketball, but that is about it. So I'm going to pass it over to Justin to do some final wrap up and logistics. Thanks to Allie, thanks to Anna, thanks to Bobby. Thanks, everyone. We're going to see you on August 16th when your student moves into campus. So appreciate you.
Woo! Yeah, team, that was so great. Thank y'all all so much for being here. Families, thank y'all so much for your questions. Y'all, there has been several questions, and like our past webinars, this was recorded. So if you missed a little nugget that one of our panelists said, you can go right on back and view it. But give us 72 hours to kind of get that back on our website. I'm going to post the website here. I think it's in the chat. But also, let me show you what we got coming up. Let me share my screen real quick. All righty. Can everyone see that? So these are our upcoming webinars. So we have one next Wednesday and one next Thursday. So if your student is a part of Trinity, we have a family meeting for you all on next Wednesday. And then we have our safety webinar and support at Duke that following Thursday. And then that all leads us up to the big one, y'all, because I cannot believe it. But we about to be moving in. We about to be moving some boxes, some refrigerators. Yo, baby is coming on the Duke. Okay, that's crazy. So August 5th, come and register for our move-in day prep and orientation prep webinar August 5th. And like I said before, you can see our past webinars at the following website. And then, and register for the ones that you haven't. So real quick, if y'all would give us some feedback. We want to know how well this panel did. I mean, I'm partial. Like, I loved it. I want to get involved my daggone self. But yeah, if y'all could just fill out this QR code, it'll take you maybe 3 minutes. We greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions, like always, you can always email us at familyprograms@duke.edu. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you all. We will see y'all soon. If y'all need anything, y'all just let us know, okay? Y'all have a good evening. Bye, y'all. And stop.